Um, what if I told you that for like up to 70% of people, a PTSD diagnosis doesn't actually have to be a life sentence?
Oh, I mean, that sounds almost too good to be true, right?
Right, because we're basically taught that modern science is just about figuring out how to, you know, quietly manage your trauma for the next 40 years.
Yeah, exactly. Just coping. But completely fundamentally losing the diagnosis altogether. That is a massive paradigm shift.
It really is. But it's a shift most people never get to experience because they are trapped behind these invisible barriers they don't even know exist.
And that is exactly what we're dismantling for you in today's deep dive. Welcome in.
Yeah, welcome. We know you're here for actionable, eye-opening knowledge.
Hmm.
So today, we are taking a really hard look at the lies we've been told about our own emotional pain.
We have some incredible source material today. It's an informational overview and clinical guide from coping and healing counseling.
Right, which we'll just refer to as CHC to keep things simple. They're a telehealth therapy practice. And they published this really remarkable guide called Trauma Myths Worth Retiring.
What makes this document so compelling isn't just the clinical data. I mean, the data is substantial, but it's how aggressively it targets the unwritten rules of society.
Yeah, the rules that just keep people stuck in this endless cycle of suffering.
Exactly. So that's our mission today. We are going to systematically tear down those most common misconceptions about trauma.
And we're going to look under the hood at how modern therapy actually mechanically rewires the nervous system.
Plus, we'll explore how the real-world structural barriers to getting that help are actively being eliminated.
Because let's be honest, I mean, you can have all the scientific breakthroughs in the world, but if people can't actually access them, what's the point?
Right. Knowledge without access just leaves people stranded.
Totally. So where do we start?
Well, before we can even begin to explore how trauma is healed, we really have to understand what prevents people from acknowledging they need healing in the first place.
Right. The gatekeeping,
Yeah, the gatekeeping of trauma. This is where the CHC text dives into myth number one. If it wasn't life-threatening, it doesn't count.
which is just wild to me. Like society's tendency to gatekeep pain is so frustrating.
It's an incredibly pervasive idea. You know, this implication that unless you survived a literal war zone, you don't get to use the word trauma.
Right. But the source's truth is that emotional and developmental trauma are entirely real.
Yes, completely real, entirely valid, and critically highly treatable.
I don't understand why we do this. I mean, think about it physically. If you break your arm, you don't refuse treatment just because it isn't a heart attack.
No, of course not. You'd go straight to the hospital.
Right. You don't sit there saying, well, the guy down the street had a heart attack, so my broken bone doesn't count. Why do we do this with our minds?
It's a great question. And it ties perfectly into the second myth the CHC guide tackles, which is that time heals all wounds.
Ugh, yes, the classic well-meaning advice from everyone who has absolutely no idea what else to say.
Exactly. Just give it time. But the text provides a really stark reality check on this phrase.
What do they say?
They highlight this crucial, striking fact. Untreated trauma does not fade over time. It actually compounds.
Wait, it compounds. Like interest?
Yes, exactly like interest. Active treatment is what heals. Time alone just provides more runway for the damage to spread.
Oh, wow. That makes me think of like a home repair analogy.
Okay, how so?
Well, like ignoring a leak in the roof, ignoring it doesn't make the water go away. It just slowly rots the foundation of the house over time.
That is a perfect analogy. The rot just spreads. You have to actively fix the leak.
Right. So if time doesn't heal trauma and active treatment is absolutely required, why do people avoid getting that active treatment?
Well, because of the fear of the healing process itself, people are just terrified of it.
Which brings us to the next section of the guide, the fear of processing.
Yeah. And this is encapsulated in myth number three. Talking about it makes it worse.
I mean, I kind of get that. People naturally compartmentalize to survive.
Oh, absolutely. It's a deeply ingrained protective mechanism. But the CHC guide pushes back hard on this.
What's the reality according to the text?
The reality is that in trauma-informed therapy, processing actually allows the nervous system to finally exhale.
Okay, I love that phrasing. But I want to unpack what a nervous system exhale actually means mechanically.
Sure, yeah.
Because to me, an untreated trauma response is it's like sitting in a car, putting it in neutral, and endlessly revving the engine.
Oh, that's a great visual.
Right. The engine is screaming at 7,000 RPMs, you aren't moving an inch, and you're just burning out the motor.
Yes. That state of hyperarousal is exactly what untreated trauma looks like. And the exhale is when therapy finally lets your foot off the gas.
Ah, okay. So it just stops the revving.
Exactly. It drops the engine down to a normal idle. That visceral drop in chronic tension, that's the exhale.
That is so incredibly hopeful.
It is, but it also leads directly into the self-imposed pressure people feel about, exactly when that exhale is supposed to happen.
Right, the timeline, which is myth number 4. I should be over it by now.
This one is so insidious because it wraps the original trauma in this suffocating layer of shame.
Because people think, it's been 5 years, why am I still struggling?
Right, but the text's core angle is that your timeline is entirely your own. There is absolutely no shame.
Because the nervous system doesn't own a calendar, basically.
Exactly. The nervous system simply does not operate on a strict schedule. Releasing that timeline is the first step.
Okay, so we've cleared away the psychological barriers, right? These myths.
We have.
So once someone gets past that fear, what does actual effective treatment look like, according to the clinical data in our sources, I mean?
Well, the text outlines the American Psychological Association's recommended first-line treatments for PTSD.
Okay, what are the main modalities they mention?
They specifically point to prolonged exposure, CPT, which is cognitive processing therapy, and EMDR.
Okay, EMDR. I've heard a lot about that one. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, right?
Yep, that's the one. And what's really fascinating is the strong evidence supporting these treatments.
Right. The big statistic from the guide. Hit me with it.
The guide reveals that remission rates range from 53 to 70% across these modalities.
53 to 70%. That is, I mean, that's massive.
It is. And we really need to emphasize the text's specific definition of remission here.
Oh, right. Because remission doesn't just mean managing it better.
No, not at all. The text defines remission as the loss of diagnosis.
Loss of diagnosis. See, this is why I said earlier that this is a massive paradigm shift in modern trauma therapy.
It truly is. It means outcomes have been transformed from merely managing symptoms forever to actual measurable healing.
You're not just coping. You don't even meet the criteria for the disorder anymore.
Exactly. The engine has cooled off.
Okay, so knowing the science of remission is fantastic. It's so optimistic.
Yeah, it really is.
And there's always but how do people practically access this care? Because logistical friction often just compounds all those myths we just discussed.
Logistics are honestly the silent killer of mental health interventions, but models like CHC are actively trying to solve this.
Right, so let's look at their infrastructure as an example of bridging that gap. The first thing is their private entry point.
Yes, the free PTSD screener.
Yeah, it's available at chhetherapy.com/mental-health-tests.
That screener is such a vital detail from the text.
Why is that so crucial for patients?
Well, for patients who are reluctant to discuss their trauma with a general practitioner, this offers a completely private entry point.
Oh, that makes sense. You don't have to sit in a doctor's office and try to prove your pain is bad enough to get a referral.
Exactly. It routes them directly to specialty care, entirely bypassing the traditional gatekeepers.
Okay, so they get in the door digitally. What does the CHC delivery model actually look like from there?
They deliver care across all 159 counties in Georgia.
Wait, all of them?
All of them. It's a 100% telehealth HIPAA compliant model.
That completely neutralizes the geographic barrier. You could live in rural Georgia and still get top-tier specialty care.
Absolutely. And they utilize a large team of over 15 licensed therapists. We're talking LCSWs, LPCs, LMFTs.
And the text explicitly points out that this team is diverse and culturally competent, right?
Yes, which is so important for trauma therapy. You have to feel fundamentally understood by your clinician to actually reach that nervous system exhale.
Right, you can't be spending half your session just explaining your cultural background to your therapist.
Exactly.
And their scope of practice is really broad, too. The document mentions individual, couples, family, and teen therapy for ages 13 and up.
Yeah, plus life coaching. And their specialties cover anxiety, depression, trauma and PTSD, grief, relationships, and just general stress.
They really cover the whole blast radius of untreated trauma. But we have to talk about the financial side.
Always the biggest barrier, right?
Always. You can have the best telehealth platform in the world, but if people can't afford it, it doesn't matter.
Very true. But the financial accessibility here is incredible. Medicaid carries a $0 copay.
$0. Wow. What about commercial insurance?
For Aetna, Cigna, Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, and Humana, it ranges from $0 to $40 a session.
That is just phenomenal. It takes it from a luxury to an accessible standard of care.
It really does. And if you're listening and want to reach out to them, you can always call them at 404-832-0102 or email support@teachitherapy.com.
Okay, so let's synthesize all of this. We've covered so much ground today.
We really have.
So, to summarize for you listening, trauma is not a competition,
No, it's not.
and time alone does not cure it. But the good news is the nervous system can be taught to exhale through APA-backed therapy.
Right. Therapies like EMDR and CPT that actually lead to losing the diagnosis.
Exactly. And accessible telehealth models like CHC are tearing down the barriers to actually get that help.
It's an incredibly hopeful message.
It really is. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to ponder.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Well, it's just based purely on the mechanics from the source material.
Okay, lay it on me.
If untreated trauma naturally compounds over time,
Mm-hmm.
and the nervous system doesn't work on a set timeline,
Right.
how much of our society's daily friction, stress, and conflict is simply the compound interest of untreated trauma, walking around in plain sight, waiting for an exhale?
Wow. That really makes you look at the world differently.
It does, doesn't it? Something to think about. We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.